Hey, what's up, everybody? In this video tutorial, we're going to take a look at what we need to do in order to get the parts that we're going to need in order to assemble the entire neon sign assembly. So since you're in this PD, you have now been given access to the Google Drive folder. And when we go out into our Google Drive folder, you'll see a folder here called Fusion Files. And then depending on which neon sign you're going to be creating, whether that's gear, hammer, robotic claw, wrench, or lightning bolt, you're going to be obviously going to that file and clicking on that. So I'm going to say I'm going to be working on the gear neon sign. And you can see we have our components already in the folder for you. So we can double click on that. All right. And now you have the ability to come out and you can either right click individually and download each one, which can take a considerable amount of time, or we can grab the top one, scroll all the way down. Okay. Hold down shift to highlight them all. And then we can just right click and say download. Okay. As you can see from the Google Drive, okay, it's preparing that download. It's zipping all those up. Okay. That is now officially sort of happened. So we're good to go. And now what I'm going to do is have it take me to where this is actually at, out there within my downloads folder. So I'm going to probably make things a little bit easier for myself. I'm just going to say this is my gear neon sign components. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just save that zip file as that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on this. And I need to do an extract all. So I'm going to go ahead and extract all the parts, okay, that come with that zip. Okay. So back here in Fusion, okay, our assembly is open for this. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it there. All right. And then I'm here in my neon sign folder. What I'm going to do is go to upload and I'm going to pick on select files. I'm going to come out here into my downloads folder, and I'm not going to be finding the zip file, but instead I'm going to be finding the file that I extracted everything. Okay, that folder. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the top one. Okay, scroll down, hold shift, grab the bottom one, or what you can do is just simply do a Control A. And now all you have to do is pick on open, and then this silly dialog box, this upload, has a tendency of being pushed down. Okay, you might have to pull it up in order to be able to see that blue upload button. So once we do that, we can now start seeing that all those files from that zip folder we downloaded earlier, now everything is starting to come over into our TEAI neon sign. Okay, so our folder has everything that we could possibly need. All right, so where I'm going to start first is I'm just going to come down here and pick on our gear neon sign box top. I'm going to pick, hold, and drag and drop that in. Okay, so we can see if that goes in. We're going to go ahead and say okay. Now, the way that I created the assembly earlier, okay, was laying flat. Okay, and when we see that the box comes in, okay, it's in a different orientation. All right. So what I probably want to do is I actually just want to leave the box in this orientation. This is indicating that this is the front according to the view cube. So I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is come here to my box top. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say I want to ground it to the parent. Okay, I'm gonna leave it right there. So now that thing's not able to move. Now the issue is my assembly is already grounded. Okay, that's from earlier. So the first part that we brought in, which was the frame, okay, that is grounded automatically. So I'm gonna come back in here, okay, to my frame. I can see the anchor is next to it. I'm gonna right click on this and I'm going to unground from the parent. So all that's gonna be working together. All right, so once that has been brought in, now we can start assembling these. So now we're going to be going out and using the help of joints. So for this entire thing, unless you're going to add to it, the only joint you really need to understand and know how to use is going to be your rigid joint. Okay, so I'm here at position. Okay, I'm going to come to the bottom of the bracket. All of your joint origins are popping up. Okay, just know if you do get close to edges, it will spin. It will go perpendicular to that edge, and that can be a frustrating thing. So just know, okay, when you are starting to go out to select your joint origins, you're just going to hover over the face first, okay, that you're wanting to work with. If you hold down the Control key and now start moving around, you're going to see that every joint origin is now locked into the face that we started with, okay? So I'm going to come in here And I'm just going to come to like this joint origin here, and I'm going to set that right in to there. Okay. Now, if it looks like the neon tube and the cap is all left behind, that's okay. Just go ahead and say okay. It's going to follow it. Okay. And now we can see that that is good to go. All right. So nothing is able to move. Okay. Everything is fully constrained. All right. So for our next part, we know we are going to need a couple bolts for this. So I'm going to come into my list of components here. You can see that this round-headed 832 bolt, okay, has been given to you. And I am going to need 2 of these. Okay, so I'm just dragging over the line to drop those in. Now, once this comes in, okay, you do have the ability to move it by hitting the point. Okay, you can spin it with the dials that are part of the triad. Okay, and then you can also move these along the different axes as well. Okay, but these are in the right orientation. I'm pretty happy. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. And then a couple things I always just tell people, especially when it comes to fasteners, we can see that the threads are actually modeled. This can get very, very, very busy with geometry when you're starting to assemble things. So instead of the focus, when you're going in a joint, instead of the focus being on this end, what I always tell people is avoid this completely and just come up here towards the top. Okay, we can see that that edge is right here. All right, and then we can see that that joint origin just pops up automatically. That's like the center of it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just take this and drop this in right here at this edge. Okay, and that bolt's going to come in. Now, once you are using joints, you're going to see you do have the ability to flip. Sometimes they do have a tendency of starting to flip over depending on how the glyph looks with the joint origin, but this one's looking good. Once again, I'm just using a rigid. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and flip this guy over, use my joint, find that same edge and the joint origin. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that right there. That's in the right orientation, so I'm going to go ahead and say okay. All right, so we're looking pretty good here, okay, as far as the fasteners go, the frame, everything so far. All right, so I know that there is a TEAI badge that we're going to drop in, so I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop in our TEAI badge. It looks like it's a little laggy. Let's go ahead and save it real quick. All right, let's try that again. So TEAI badge. Waiting on my network here. There she comes. Okay, so the badge comes in. Okay, and once again, if you need to use the dot to pull that out where you can see it, okay, you can totally do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. Okay, use my joints. Okay, come here to the edge of that hole on the back side and get that to line up with the top of the hole right here. Okay, and we can see that the badge goes in. Okay, we can go back into home view. All right, we're looking good with the assembly so far. All right, so that badge is going to need a couple bolts. So instead of us going back over, opening up the data panel, dragging that stuff in, okay, what you can do is you can actually just come right here to one of your original bolts, okay, right click on it. You can say copy. And then out here in the white space, let's go ahead and do a paste. And then you can drag this off, say okay, okay. And if you want, you can even go ahead and paste that one that you just did previously. So let's go ahead and paste on that. There we go. So we have our 2 bolts that we need. Okay, once again, let's use our joint. Come to the bottom of the head of that bolt. And let's get that to line up, okay, here with the actual TEAI badge. That goes in. Good orientation. We'll say okay. Do the same thing here as well. Okay, come to this one right here. Let's put that in here to the top of the hole. That's going to go right in. We're going to say okay. All right, so that's looking good. All right, so there's a hole here on the top. This is going to be for your rocker switch. So I'm going to come here to data panel. I'm going to come out and find my rocker switch. I'm going to drag and drop that in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say okay. And now let's go ahead and focus in on this. Same sort of, hence I said earlier, just come here to the bottom edge, okay, or this edge, that works. And let's just come here to the top of the hole. Okay, let's drop that in. All right, so the one thing, I'm going to go ahead and just say okay on this. All right, let's say that you are not happy with the orientation of this switch. Maybe you don't want it oriented, okay, this way. Maybe you want it to be flipped 90 degrees and go the other way. So what you can do with a situation like this is, all right, if you've already dropped in that joint, okay, and that thing is fully constrained, if you want to manipulate this and change it, you can come over here and access your joint folder. So we can see all the joints we have used so far, okay, in order to make this assembly. The last joint I used is the one I used to put the switch in. So if I come here to rigid 9, right click and say edit joint, okay, you're going to see you do get your triad back, all right? And if we want to flip that 90 degrees, we can use that dial, okay, and make sure it's 90 and say okay. All right, and now my switch is going to be a different orientation. All right, so that's looking pretty good. All right, so I put in all the bolts, okay, to hold down the frame and this badge. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this over, okay, and obviously we're going to need some hex nuts. There's some washers and stuff we're going to need. So I'm gonna come over to the data panel, okay. Since most of the mass and the weight, okay, of the light, the frame, this is coming down here on this bracket. I am going to go ahead and just include just a washer. So I'm going to drag and drop the washer in. I'm going to need that 2 different times. I need 2 instances of the same washer. So I'm going to say okay. And now what I'm going to do is go in here and get these put into the right position. So let me go ahead, use joint, come here to the outside edge, find the joint origin. And instead of focusing in on the threads, like I said before, I'm going to get down here close and see if I can't get the actual hole surface to pop open for me. All right, to like kind of show itself. And there it is. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. All right, that's going to drop in. Now you can't see the washer. You can sort of see that little sort of shiny reflectiveness. It means it needs to be flipped. So make sure it's flipped and say okay. And we're going to do the same thing for the second one. So I'm going to go out and find it. Use my joint, come here, I'm going to find the top edge of that hole, and here it is. Okay, we can see that origin popped up. Once again, we're sort of seeing that smearing, that shininess to it. That's telling me it needs to be flipped. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. All right, so we have the washers installed. Back over into the data panel. Okay, we're now going to come up here and find our hex nuts that we're going to need. So we're going to need 1. Okay, and we're going to need 2. Okay, just like so. And now we can go ahead and get those installed into the bottom, and it's going to be making contact with the washer. So once again, this can get really busy on the inside here. So instead, come over here to the outside. You can find an edge, which means you're going to find that joint origin. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I'm just going to take this right here to the edge of the washer. We can see our joint origin pops. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. We're going to say okay. And we're going to do the same thing for the other one. So joint, outside edge, till we get that joint origin to pop. And we're going to take this right here, find the outside edge, and get that to join up with the washer. All right, so the badge is going to need a couple more hex nuts as well. So like I said earlier, okay, we can go ahead and we can copy, we can go ahead and copy what we've already gotten in here. So we can do that right from the browser. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. All right, so there's 1. And then I can go ahead and paste in 1 more. Okay, let's just go ahead and drop that in. So once again, okay, coming here to the outside edge, find the origin. And once again, all right, let's ignore the actual bolt itself, but let's focus on the hole. Okay, we can see it's sitting right on top of the hole. We'll say okay. And now let's go to joint one more time, focus on the outside edge, find the origin, and let's come over here. Let's see if we can't find the hole itself. And it was just there. I might have to rotate this over. There it is. Okay, let's go ahead and drop that in. Okay, so we're seeing the outline. We're seeing that sort of smear or that shininess. Let's go ahead and do the flip to show that hex nut goes in right. All right, so the badge is now officially installed. Okay, the frame, the light, all that is officially installed. Okay, we've got the rocker switch, it's in there. Okay, and now we need to go ahead and put in our battery and battery holder. So jumping over here into data panel. Okay, let's see if we can't find our battery holder. So there's our 9-volt battery holder. Okay, let's go ahead and get that where we can kind of see it and say okay. All right, so if you take a look here, okay, on the top port of the battery holder, we're going to see this sort of peg, just how it's kind of made. And then you can see there's these sort of spacers here to keep it off the wall. It's actually something that can go into. We can see that one single peg is up here and the 2 are here at the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is here at the battery holder, I'm going to flip this over and zoom in close. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is using my joint, okay, I'm going to come here to the very top of this peg, once again using that edge as a reference. And then I'm going to orbit this over, look in close, and let's see if I can't get in close enough where I can see the bottom of that that hole. And that thing's going to pop in. Now the issue is the battery holder, when it goes in, we can see that this thing needs to be flipped 180 degrees. No problem. Grab the dial and just make sure that that is going to 180. Okay, so negative 180. I'm going to go just type that in manually just to show you can do it. Now we can go and say OK. We can start grabbing all this stuff. Nothing is flying off because it is fully constrained. So a 9-volt battery holder needs a 9-volt battery. So here into the data panel, okay, I'm going to come down and find my 9-volt. So here it is. Okay, so using the dot, pull this out in the space where I can use it. And now I can look over here at this side. So this is my male end. So I'm going to go ahead and go to joint. And I'm just going to come here to the very top edge, all right, to find my joint origin. And now I need to be focusing on the female end of the battery holder. Okay, and you can see that there is a hole at the bottom. Okay, in order to make contact, we'll pick the top sort of lip or edge of that hole. We'll say OK on that, and we can see that that thing goes in the right orientation. So we'll go ahead and say OK. All right, so that has been installed. Okay, and the last thing that we need to kind of worry about is just making sure that the base, okay, has been dropped in as well. So we can see that the sign box base is here. We can drag and drop that in. Okay, now when this happens, if you are seeing a work plane, all right, and that can get annoying, all right, what you can do is, all right, and this is another cool, helpful hint as I'm telling you about a hint. If you pick on the actual component, you are going to see this sort of barber stripe that happens underneath the actual component saying, hey, the component you have selected is this one right here. So if I come to this sign box base, all right, and I expand out, you're going to see there are other folders here like bodies and sketches. Okay, the work planes are going to be found in the construction folder. So if you just want to turn it off completely by poking it in the eye, that will make that disappear. Okay, if it had more than one plane in there and you want to keep that plane on, well, you can expand out construction a little bit more and then go and find that plane and turn it off. Okay. All right. So in order to install this, okay, I'm going to come here to joint. And let's just say, yeah, we'll make this work. I'll just say that's my joint origin. Okay. Come to the bottom of the box. That was the very outside. Find this joint origin and it will install that plate just like so. So we can't see it inside of it anymore. Okay. All right. So just know at any time, if you did have to get back into the box and take a look, okay, you can always come here, all right, to where that base is at. So I showed you that trick earlier. You can always poke it in the eye to turn the visibility off. Okay. You can go in there and work and do what you want. And then once you're done with that, you can obviously go ahead and turn and hit that eye to turn the visibility on. Okay. And you're good to go. So there we go. We got our Neon box. It's almost fully assembled. Okay. Next thing we have to do is take a look at how to create the nameplate. Okay. And the nameplate, this is a really good opportunity to once again work with top down in order to create the nameplate right there in place. Okay. So there we go.